Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start this session with, like a really warm up question, because, it's we're almost in 2022 now. And it's interesting the number of panels, the number of discussions that I've either been a part of or heard of or read about of TV versus digital. Now, just, as somebody like me, myself, I've had like a significant chunk of my career in television, and now the significant chunk of the latter part of my career in digital. And it's just something that in some manner always kind of, amazes me, that are we still having the discussion, or have we crossed that bridge of, it being TV versus digital to TV and digital, or television or digital bases the relevance to the audience? So any early thoughts, any warm-up thoughts on that?
I personally feel that we have crossed it in a broad sense, because it is here to stay. Digital is not something where we can wish it away, and because it is eventually benefiting the brand. It is not that it is going to support, and it is in a totally different way. It is benefiting. So I think it is there, but there will be factors which will influence your choice. As far as your budgets, or whether you want to reach out, or the product category itself. I think these will be the real parameters, rather than saying whether it is one on one. It is not about the strength. It is about what will be leveraged better for that objective of that particular campaign. That's my thought.
Right, absolutely. I'm going to speak to Mr. Shashank in particular, because, as somebody who was in my career at Z, how we have literally like rejoiced when we had Maruti Suzuki as, a part of our, esteemed, sponsors on our non-fiction shows. And I've seen Maruti extensively use the power of television, both in promos and on non-fiction, So for a category that's been like a, heritage, a category, a long stay, a high investment category. How do you, like, Mr. Shashank, how's been your experience in kind of, bridging the whole digital and the television world, and any nuggets that you could share with us?
Yeah, so thank you, Azmat, for having me on this panel. And Azmat, the folks at Z are still rejoicing, because we are still investing big time on the mainstream television. And it was interesting to hear Priya talk about the digital is here to stay. I thought the question was the other way, whether it was television is here to stay or not. But I think, having said that, I think both are important, in the sense they complement each other, rather than it's not a direct one-to-one against each other. For example, in around so far we have spent about in a year about 700 crores on advertising, of which 34% is on television, slightly less, about 27% on digital. Now, what television does, especially for our brand category, and we are spending not just on FCTs, but also on the impact shows which we sponsor, which is not just for the purpose of giving reach and awareness, which, especially when you launch a brand, you need quick reach, you need quick building of awareness. At the top end of the funnel, there is no substitute for television. So I think we, as a automobile category, we would continue to invest big time on television, especially at the top end of the funnel. And of course, TV or digital gives you a more personalized sort of experience. And that is also important, especially we are starting with the lower end of the funnel. Now, in between, when you have that consideration of the brand going, there is an overlap. There, I think you decide whether you spend dollars on digital or on television. So that call we take, and I think it rarely is any campaign purely tilted towards television or purely towards digital. So there is a overlap. And I must say that in terms of imagery for the brand, especially for automobile, you can build that imagery big time on television rather than on the shorter spans that you see in the digital world. So I think both will continue. In summary, both will be there. Each has its own purpose. For us, since imagery is also important, and quick launch, quick building of awareness and reach is important, then television still has a lot of strengths compared with the digital.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so interesting that you brought alive the point. So yes, television and there's digital, and we use it to build reach at the worst, right? That's base, that's planning. But the fact that you brought alive that maybe the two different mediums can also help bring alive the brands in very different ways to the viewers, right? And
Absolutely.
I just was catching a couple of ads of Policy Bazaar, and Samir is here, and what quirky fun stuff, right? So is it that you guys being a digital first brand, kind of it gives you that leeway to have slightly more fun with the brand, because this is, and I saw a couple of ads like about people walking into lifts, and like maybe a couple of years back, if it was like True Blue, that one PVC running for 1 year, we have taken such chances with our brand, or is just that digital? Because see, our discussion out here is television and digital, right? So are we also kind of deciding brand personalities basis the mediums that we're using, how much fun we can have with ourselves?
See, I think a majority of the audiences that you cater to on television and on digital are the same audiences. They just spend their time on different mediums and different points in time and for different amounts of time. Right. So it's predominantly the same person you're talking to. It's just that television is a medium where it gives you the opportunity to launch a communication at a very grand, high reach, high decibel sort of a platform. And digital, like Shashank also mentioned, offers you a lot of personalization scope and scope for a lot of customization in terms of specially targeting audiences. But ultimately, when you talk about the quirkiness of the ads, I think it is extremely important to entertain people, to grab the eyeballs, to grab their attention, because there is a great amount of clutter on both the mediums, be it television and digital. And I think it's extremely important to serve them an ad that is going to be entertaining and that is going to be a little memorable for them also. And in terms of the fact that you mentioned, right, when people used to air one ad for the entire year, I think that's more a function of how frequent an advertiser you are. If you're doing just 1 or 2 campaigns a year, depending on the season of your category, maybe it can fly. But if you're a very regular advertiser, advertising every month of the year, it is extremely important for you to keep refreshing the communication, because the creative fatigue sets in very soon.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Samir, that's really well said. I'll just kind of pin my next question down specifically to Chandan, because you mentioned about audience and whether it being the same audience on television and digital, and Chandan being the flag bearer of all things consumer insights and intelligence on Nestle. And while this question begins is directly addressed to him, please feel free to chime in, because I've sat in intense debates, wherein we have kind of said, is it the same consumer? Is it the same consumer behaving differently?
Can I make a follow-up point?
Sorry?
Can I make a follow-up point here? I think
yes,
when I said it's the same consumer you're targeting, that is very true for my category, where the audiences seem to be a little over, say, 28, 29 years.
Right.
But there is a large section of the audience on digital that is exclusive to digital, that is slightly younger than this, maybe.
True.
But when it comes to slightly mature audiences, they sort of tend to consume both the mediums.
Absolutely. So yes, Chandan, your any words of wisdom on this?
So yeah, Azmat, well, thank you so much for the question. Yes, and I think, there is no single audience, and we are all talking about very, very specific audiences, segmented audiences. It's not about, one size fits all. There are very different audiences that we have. And also brands are at a different point in their life cycle, let us say. Some brands are just about starting. Some brands have got let's say, a big penetration. Some brands, have got a huge kind of, rural, urban, multi sort of pyramid focus. Some brands are a bit different. So I think there is a role for both from a TV as well as a digital point of view. And it's also important to not again start looking at TV as a whole and digital as a whole. It's also important to kind of, match the consumer audience as well as the consumer journey and the platforms and the channels that we are talking about, in order to get to a little bit of a combination of them. And that is going to give us the best impact, that is going to help build brands in the right way. And that's also going to help us tap into the audiences. Of course, there's a whole debate, and this is not just in India, but everywhere in the world, which is about how well do we understand our audiences, and whether our measurement and understanding of audiences are sharp enough, and does that need to evolve in these times when you have TV, you have connected TV, smart TV, OTT, free to air, a whole set of different television audiences as well, and at the same time you have many different kind of digital platforms which are also leaning in different ways. So yes, absolutely. I think audience understanding and tapping the right medium and the right message with the right audience is going to be very, very key.
Right. Just speaking about data mining, and I cannot resist and just move on to Anita, because she's been on our syllabus, right? So we studied Anita's career and all the awesome work that she's done, and from television and now on a very heritage brand, right? Patanjali and digital. So two things that I'm just pondering about. One is, are we as marketers a little more tough on the digital partners? Because I had like one of my very important digital partners actually tell this to me: Azmat, do you ask the same question to your television planner as much as you're asking me? He is giving you like a weekly reach and you're happy with that, and I'm giving you like daily data, but you're still grilling me for more questions. So are we like tougher on digital? And how does it, when one thinks Patanjali, one thinks heritage, one thinks everything to do with FTA and more, that's like the popular perception, the popular imagery, right? So how is it that you're fronting this amazing transformation of a brand that has gone and shaken up like the big ones in the system, Anita?
Yeah, thanks firstly for having me with this esteemed panel out here. Just wanted to mention that, I don't think we're asking any tough questions to anybody. I think maybe television thinks that we ask them easy questions because of the maturity of the medium more than anything else, and digital is maturing, so which is why everybody who's, for the lack of another word, experimenting with digital will ask those questions, because, you're so used to a weekly or a monthly or a fortnightly reach. And if somebody is giving you that on a daily basis, becomes a little difficult to mine that whole data to understand, where things are coming from. So no tough questions asked anywhere. I think they're legitimate questions which are being asked to both the partners. I mean, today, I think even on television, we go back and ask, but if you're giving me ZTV, why can't I have Z5 as well for the same program? Yeah, because you are reaching out to cumulative audiences. And there are no questions on the reach of television. There is no question on what television as a medium, brings to the table in terms of awareness and reach, etc. And also there is no question on digital growth today. There's no question on digital reaching out to your millennials, which, kind of do not even watch television today. And then this whole question about OTT, because it's all about appointment viewing. And there is this whole question about, connected TV now. From I think 6 months back, we were talking about 7 million, on connected TV, and today we are talking about 30 million. So look at the speed with which that is growing. So to my mind, I think each medium has its own attributes. One has to use those attributes basis the marketing objectives of a brand, basis the kind of audiences you are reaching, basis the kind of markets you want to reach to. So you have to use judiciously a combination of all mediums. And today the discussion is more on television and digital, but one should not really write off the other mediums which are also existing. So I think it completely depends on, like Shashank was mentioning, the funnel. What part of the funnel requires what kind of audiences, what is the role that part is playing, and hence which is the best medium that fits in there. So at Patanjali, as you asked me that question, well, we are getting into maybe a little late, but getting into the digital transformation era as well. And we do realize that, it is very important to have affinity with the younger audiences today, because, we've reached the masses, and thanks to television in terms of penetration and reach both. But, if you have to really get an affinity of our brands with the youth of today or with the millennials of today, then I think digital has a role to play there. So like I said, it's completely the requirement and the objective that you are chasing, which will really help you decide only television, only digital, combination of both, more of television, less of digital, or the other way around.
Right, absolutely. And in fact, since you mentioned digital and millennials and the work, see, the one question that I, often struggle with is that what is it that, in my experience at Discovery now, the 1 year that I've been here and managing both broadcast and OTT, right? So I market for both, getting people to get eyeballs to linear viewing and getting people to, subscribe to a paid OTT service, right? And I have had some experiences of specifically using only digital or television. Now, maybe easier said than done in a scenario like OTT, wherein or like content marketing, wherein okay, this show is going to appeal to this kind of TG who consumes this kind of a content, and hence. So I'll just give you, some examples, like, when this was a year when Discovery has made its big mass foray, and in April we launched this show called Star versus Food with Bollywood faces. Right now, nobody would have expected that on erstwhile Discovery, what we have known it to be so far in India. So over-indexed on the use of television, over-indexed on the use of influencers, over-indexed on the use of Hindi, over-indexed on the use of even FTA to some degree. Well, if one would just go with the traditional thinking, one would be like, okay, it's FTA, and this is a paid subscription service, so should we really be advertising on FTA? And it really delivered like supersonic results for us, right? So we kind of, took a informed, calculated risk of over-indexing on television as a medium for OTT as a product. So, just if, if any one of you would like to share any experiences that you all have had in the recent past, wherein, it's good to say television and digital go together, right? Of course, they go together, and any marketer sitting in today's day and age would not even think of a campaign one or the other. But has there been a case wherein one has really kind of, said, okay, let's do this because this brand or this audience or this market is more present on this medium vis-a-vis these others, and any learnings that have come out from it?
So I'll just want to add something to that, Azmat. We launched energy bars, immunity bars and energy bars, and it's a premium kind of a segment, and obviously priced like that, with not too many competitors in the marketplace, but then competitors who are of great repute. And we come out with the energy bars where we're talking about natural, organic, immunity, stuff like that. So we actually launched this only on digital, because this was something that where we were catering it to kids of a certain age and the youth, for example, the gym going youth, etc. And we've just kind of ended the campaign, and we are just awaiting some results and some calculations to figure out as to how we've done on that. But I must say that we've been able to get some interesting initial results. So like I mentioned earlier also, that it really depends on what your objective really is, and what do you think, as which medium you think, either in combination with some other medium or solely will be able to deliver to that objective. So yes, I mean, there has been a digital only campaign from a brand like Patanjali as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, we're saying digital, and I think the first thing that comes to most of our head, minds is, reach building and adding television and adding digital and garnering more and more eyeballs and viewers. But there is a very important role that digital at least comes to play, at least when it comes to certain, brands, like the category that I've worked in is with, it was engagement and, the two-way communication. And all of us have experienced by now, this thing of working with digital influencers, right? And I don't like to use the term influencers as a new term, because it's been around, right? It's been around forever. We had television influencers, we had print influencers, we had very many influencers, and now digital also has influencers, right? So this entire category that boomed and enjoyed like a really, there used to be these organic mentions and these paid mentions. I have seen the erosion of influencer impact in my category the moment the paid sponsorship label has come up. So any challenges in that regard? I think Mylab, I've seen some really good the Mylab discovery work, and I actually went and Googled some pieces of work that you guys have done with Akshay Kumar. And again, Mylab needs such credibility, because it is something that people would take great interest in, would need great credibility of, and it's not something an off-the-cuff decision that you would make, right? So any particular instances of specific challenges in that regard that you're facing?
Yeah. Thank you, Azmat. Thank you for calling me on this particular platform where I'm graced with the presence of the dignitaries in this big event. Thank you so much. See, I would like to say that, with the proliferation and expansion of so many choices to view television content, television remains a very staple for any successful marketing campaign. And when we talk about marketing campaign, Mylab Discovery Solution is very new in the market, where the first time we have come out to be a B2C kind of a brand, because prior to this, we were only B2B. We are a diagnostic company where we manufacture diagnostic kits. And diagnostic is a very regulated market in India. So it has to first go to the laboratories rather than being in the hands of an individual, because a lot of criticalities are present into it. So since we were first time into this market, we took both ways, as everyone agrees that, a new age marketing has to involve both digital as well as television in both aspects. So television for us remained a very staple way to convey our message. So television presented us a way to present a very powerful message to promote our brand as well as the product that we were providing. It was a self-testing kit where individual can directly procure it from the pharmacy and do a test whether that person is COVID positive or negative. So television, I think television for us has been used as a tool to present a kind of an awareness building campaign. And that was backed by, again, with a different ways of digital marketing, of course. So I think to reach out for a largest number of audiences, and that has been a very powerful tool since decades, and also with the advent of different options for home viewing, like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and other, they're capturing segments of viewing different opportunities of commercial advertisement, and it has been a very effective way. Having said that, in this digital age, millions of people spend so much of their time, poking around different digital platforms. Businesses becoming increasingly aware of the fact that, we need to leverage even on the digital platform. And with this new age of marketing, I think, TikTok, again, which is banned in India, but TikTok is coming out as a very powerful tool. And Instagram Reels is coming out as a very powerful tool. I think that can be used and as an influencer marketing, where we can, promote different brand awareness, promote different self-awareness, promote different qualities of a brand for that aspect. Yes, we, as you correctly said, influencer marketing is not very new. Influencer marketing, we have been using it since ages, whether it in television, and now it has been very much segmented and targeted in case of digital media. It is one of the best way, and one of the way where we can pinpointly target with specific messaging, with specific ways of promoting. And for us, it was more about, rather than awareness, it was awareness and how to use this particular test, because this is a troubled time, we all know, and COVID has really been very brutal to us since last 1 year. So it was more important to how to correct use and find out whether the person has been infected or not. So it has been very powerful tool for us to use an influencer, because television definitely creates a trust when someone sees an influencer on a television or whether a digital platform. The empathy that it creates, the trust that it creates is very important. So for us, it was not really a challenge. For us, it was more of a challenge to how to effectively send the message to the audience of how to correctly use a particular product and how quick and beneficial it is for using that particular brand.
Right, interesting. Just taking forward the conversation of using digital being two-way, giving you opportunities to do more stuff. And I was just having a look at the Blue Star and the kind of stuff that you guys are doing on digital, and it kind of drew back memories on when we were back in the day, like 10 years ago, launching Dance India Dance. And I think digital at that point of time is what I would say it was nascent. People was we were very ZTV, Dance India Dance was very lucky to ride the YouTube boom in India. that medium was getting bigger, and suddenly dancing became big, and we consciously focused on creating a lot of tutorials. So there was a point of time on the DID page, we would get more views on the tutorials to the dance step than the actual dance videos themselves, because there was this hunger to know about different kinds of dance forms and how different things are done. So when I saw your page, it kind of just drew me back to that experience, because I did see Blue Star putting up a lot of tutorials. And it is in that sense not a very not a very singing and dancing category, right, wherein you can do a lot of musty stuff, and it is a serious category. It is a category that people are not thinking about all the time, and only when when I have a specific need. So are you seeing, Priya, any ways where digital is combined with TV giving you that added advantage of taking Blue Star maybe a little more deeper into people's lives, like how much ever that a product like this can?
Certainly, that is why I said there is no more debate of whether it should be one of the either. And we have a unique space. We are in a unique space where we also cater to the B2C audience and also B2B. So time and again we have seen that that notional thinking that B2B digital is better is not right, because I think way back in 90s we started advertising for air conditioners, that too commercial air conditioning on TV. If some of you, the Camel Eskimo, very hot and cold places in the same office, or when it comes to a very technical product like a VRF, we brought in concept selling of a technical product on TV. So that myth of that fits this doesn't work. And similarly, like you said, when it comes to air conditioning, now the category has evolved so much. So a consumer is not like you said, not looking for technical inputs on that. But when you move away to something like an air purifier, it is a growing market. People, many of even our own colleagues, they don't know whether you have to keep the room shut, open, how much it, like the tonnage, 150 square feet. I know it by thumb rule, it is 1 ton. People are still not able to understand this product, right? Whether one will suffice for my room, two I should get, what is the capacity, lot of things. I think there people are, and even something like portable ACs. We were amazed to see that one, small demo video on that brought in a lot of inquiries to us, because people didn't know what this animal is, right? Whatever is new in category, I think that kind of a demo, and there I'm saying even when you have a technical influencer, the credibility also goes up. Even though you may call it paid promo or whatever, the credibility goes a notch up, because I know for a fact that, okay, fair enough, Geeky Ranjit will know about any technical product. So there, in that sense, you are layering with the credibility also. So in that manner of speaking, we have rightly balanced between TV and digital. Of course, it is increasing. Like I think the base is low, right? Any organization, when they start spending on digital, it is going to shift the gear, right? From 100% TV, all of us are moving away money. It is not that from anywhere the pie will mathematically it has to move from somewhere. So that is why I think that shift will definitely happen. To what extent each of us will do it will depend, like rightly said by many of us, it will depend on the objectives. If I want to target an niche was always available as a terminology in TV also, right? Whenever I want to have a niche, I may go for a golf tournament, and whichever way we used to find our own niche depending on the TG. Today, that niche has become largely available with digital. I can do that much more with confidence and with measurement. Like you were saying, people are worried that we are asking for too much of data with digital. But that is one of the USP of digital, right? When you sell it to us, we say that it is measurable, right? When you are saying it is measurable, please give us numbers.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying it is that, and I think it will be a organic growth for an organization to move whichever way, it suits depending on the product category. I want to target one particular location. Obviously, even with a regional channel or thing, I may not, because I may be strong, right now target only a certain segment of the regional market that I cannot do here, with the TV. Then I will shift like that. Each of my objective will decide where I will shift, and we will continue to do that, I think, in most of the categories.
Right. I really love this insight that you mentioned about, like while we might say it's not television versus digital, maybe from a consumer perspective, but from a marketer's perspective, maybe that's still a question looming large in our heads, because budgets are finite, and any time that you're picking one over the other or picking both, the division needs to be made. And that's where maybe the thinking of, television versus digital continues to exist in our mind. That's really interesting. Just taking that like a notch further, 2020 is the year wherein, it kind of speed dialed digital acceptance across the world, in India in particular, and all of us have been reading, and so I will not get into quoting data specifics on that front. So from a viewer perspective, like, if I were just to quote examples from, anecdotal examples, my mother, who erstwhile would have never taken on to Zoom or would have otherwise not consumed so much content on, say, an OTT or Facebook or something, is on it. So for a viewership perspective, there's been a speed dialing of that. Do you think that this has also kind of speed dialed the marketeer interest in digital? Because, this is a time when a huge audience was available to us ready. So did we kind of all dip into that pie to buy, CPMs for cheaper, to buy eyeballs for cheaper? And, any one of us could, really take that question and, just help me understand that if that was the case from a marketer's perspective. In my perspective, yes, it was. I did kind of speed dialed even more on my digital buys, only because, there was inventory available.
So I think, Azmat, just sort of building back a little bit also on your last two questions, if you look at our big brands like Maggi or Nescafe or Kit Kat or Munch or any of them, we have built these over television, because at that point in time when these brands were built, there was not so much digital. I mean, in at least the infancy years of these brands. And then slowly and steadily, of course, digital is increasing. And of course, a lot of the spends are going into digital. Of course, it's more a cross-screen kind of planning that we are always kind of trying to build in onto where the audience is, what's the objective, what stage of the funnel, what do we want to achieve. And I think the choices and the speed dialing of digital takes us back a little bit to say, what is it that really matters? And that is, if we are able to really answer that question of what really are we trying to achieve and what is it that really matters, can get there. Of course, niche audiences have been available, in digital, but we did a recent Face of Hope campaign, where we sort of encourage people to mask themselves up for some time, given the situation that is there, for a better tomorrow with a face of hope. And with that campaign, we, we're able to reach 200 million people through digital. Now, of course, we have to keep pushing our boundaries further. If we have more mass or big ambitions of trying to reap into the full potential of India that it, tries to offer to us, then of course, those kind of audiences and that kind of reach is available. What's, of course, the other thing to look at is also how do we go more lower funnel, and how do we look at more in-market audiences, which can be also better shaped through digital. If you look at the ecosystem around, there are many digital brands, like you said, before another panelist said, that are also tapping into television. Because if I were to get app downloads, or if I were to get traffic to my site on a digital platform, or if I have a certain platform, then one might resort to television to be able to get that acquisition, to be able to get those numbers till that point, and of course, building the trust and so on. On the point of influencers, which is also a very, very interesting point, I think where influencers needs to be reassessed a little bit. When influencers started, you did have a situation where it was almost like people like me influencing me about myself. Somebody in, let's say, a lady, who is a little bit of a fashion expert, or a home chef, or somebody who's interested in cooking, is talking to others like her and so on, and there is influence. Now, what's happening is that these influencers are also becoming bigger and wider. They have, of course, followers, engagement metrics, and other things to look at, but it's going a little bit beyond the influencer sphere into other things, and not just influence. And that's where I think we need to relook at the ecosystem. Influencers are important, and in this visual world with Instagram and many other such kind of platforms, is going to increasingly become important. But it also looks at reassessing, and this reassessment and continuously trying to see what is it that we're reaching, what the objectives are, and how far can we go with digital. Can we go to 500 million people? If a brand has such ambitions, brands may not have such ambitions. Brands may have more specific audiences of 1 million, 2 million, even less, little bit more. And therefore you have to look at that in that context. And this is the cross-screen kind of planning that we are continuously pushing ourselves to go further on.
Cross-screen planning, that is, in fact, of late, I've had like some great experiences with this whole connected TV and listening, and you're serving an ad on television, and you're being able to tap into the same consumer on digital, and it has really resulted in some really good numbers for us in that regard. But just, again, just to do a quick round robin with this lovely panel, if there is one thing in TV that you think, as a trend that is going out, and one thing in digital that you think as a trend is now over and done with, because I think we fairly established that we're all believers in both the mediums, and, the fact that they need to coexist and they serve definite objectives for us. But if you could do away with like, this is what I don't, this is a trend that I see going out of television, or this is a trend that I see going out of digital, not doing this, or not using this, or not giving optimum results, what would that be? And I will just maybe, because I have the screen visible, I'll say with Priya first. We could start.
I think with TV, what will go away is looking at a campaign or a marketing strategy as just a TVC, that will go away. Because whenever we start with the marketing objective, many a times already in our mind there is a TVC, right? The communication, and it is just there. I think it will move away from there, and it will be more of how I will my end objective may become the key, and how I achieve it may be with the multiple media choice. It may not be like before, that if it is a communication, it will be a TVC. Then I will support it with a print or outdoor things. That way of thinking, I think, will go away. From TV's perspective is what I believe. And in digital, it is a very, very personal view. I think this too much dependence on social media with people somewhere are feeling that it is stifling there. I think this influencer and this, where it is getting overdone, I think that will reach it, that shaking away and stabilizing will happen, I think, in that space. It's now too much of noise and too much of opinions, too much of everything which is happening, because I think it's like the feeling of missing out is happening with the space, and I think there some stability will I at least wish it'll come.
Right. So Anita, are we like, Priya just mentioned, are we still thinking of television, like, is our agency still presenting the first 30-second TVC, or what's your take on what is the over and out stuff on television and digital?
So in simple words, I think song and dance needs to go out of television. I think we've had an overdose of that on television, vis-a-vis the innovations as well. And as far as digital is concerned, I think over indulgence and over dependence and over leveraging of social media, I think that is something that one needs to be very, very careful about. And what you call DCO, dynamic creative optimization, which is a term used very much in the digital parlance, but I think DCO is something that we need to do on television as well. So gone are the days of 30 seconders, and gone are the days when creative guys used to think of feature films and end up with 60 seconders. So I think we need to just be able to convey our messaging in the shortest possible secondage. I will not name it, whether it's 5 or 3 or 10 or whatever, but I think a DCO needs to happen, because as someone rightfully said, I think Samir said from Policy Bazaar, that there is a lot of fatigue that sets in because there are far too many options to be viewed today. The audience is spoiled for choices. Yeah.
DCO being the name of the game, because the fact is that the attention span has gotten shorter generally for human
Absolutely,
beings, right?
absolutely.
Now, whether they're consuming on digital or whether they're consuming on television doesn't matter. Like there are times wherein I click on a link, and if it doesn't load in the next 2 seconds, I hit on the shut button, right? I do not have
Absolutely.
the patience to give it a couple of seconds to load, So yes, that I completely am with you about the DCO piece. And Mr. Shashank.
I'll just try to pitch in now. Let's say about this Instagram reels that we are talking about. People are hooked onto it, and it's hardly like 5 seconds, 6 seconds. So the more content you want to give to the media, people don't have that attention span itself. So I mean, Anita is correct that it should go down and it should be very quick. I mean, we are becoming more intelligent these days. We just want the nick of it. We just don't want to go in depth into what that product wants to say, because over gradually we'll definitely understand about it. So it's more important that in that short span of time, how creative we are in presenting that information. So I think that is what will evolve over a period of time. And I think even television and digital, we are moving, in sync with each other. Those 30 seconds or 60 seconds are ad, cutting down to 30 and 30 into 15 or 10. Even I don't want to go into numbers, because it all depends upon how creative we are with a particular brand. But I think, yes, short videos are in vogue these days.
Deb, we were always intelligent. Sorry, so I just wanted to add to what Deb was saying. I think we were always very intelligent, Deb, but we that point in time probably didn't have so many choices.
Right.
So many choices. Your attention span, you get greedy, right? Human beings intrinsically are greedy. You want to watch everything, and then that is the point when you have far too many options that you need to get out with your messages in a very dynamic and quick manner. So sorry for interrupting, Shashank. Sorry.
No, I was just going to come to that point. And in fact, so Mr. Shashank, so is it that the day of awesome storytelling is over, or there is still some potential to hold viewer attention, be it television or digital? What would you root for?
Yeah, so I wouldn't entirely agree with some of the panelists who said that the attention span is becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. I think on the digital platform, it's becoming shorter and shorter. I don't think there are, of course, individuals who choose television, especially over or digital. So certain type of content they want to see on digital. There are some other types of things which they want to see on television. So as far as I'm concerned, I think what is more dangerous for television, and which is probably going out and will go out, is the appointment, what we call appointment viewing, where the options are available on the other platforms, on the digital platforms. You can do whichever screen, whenever, wherever you are. So that thing is more dangerous, and I think that would get out of television. As far as content creation is concerned, we used to think in making of any storyline or any video content based on TV first. But I think it's going to be a digital first approach, and then maybe modify. It was the other way around earlier. I think if the ability of an effective storytelling to capture audiences' emotions and to build sustained brand salience is there in television, sure. I mean, I'm quite sure, and therefore, depending on, and I think most of the panelists spoke about it, I completely agree, depending upon what product category you are in, or what product life cycle it is, what is your objective, the type of, which area of funnel you are operating in, even geography might matter. I think both have got a role to play. And for Maruti Suzuki, I can say for new brands, we do put in a lot of money for building brand salience through television. And for sustenance, we are using, of course, a digital medium to a large extent. Some of the campaigns are purely digital also. So I think it's going to be a mix. Appointment viewing and content only for TV is going out. And I agree with Anita there. The social media influence on the digital platform, I think it's going to go. It will go down. If not, it's not going to go away. It's going to go down because the viewers are going to get bored of it. It's not sustainable, I think. And in any case, the DCO is probably going to factor in somewhere that criteria as well.
Right. Interesting.
Shashank, I just wanted to add to it. I don't think storytelling is going away anywhere. If you ask me, it is just how one is able to tell that story, which is more important. So storytelling, whether it is you've told your story in 5 seconds or 60 seconds, I think it's the art of storytelling which will always stay, and which will be the main core of the creative renditions that you have.
Absolutely.
For a medium like television, obviously a long format works, because
Absolutely.
when
Absolutely.
you are viewing television, your mindset is of ki haan, main आधा घंटा I will watch the serial,
Yes,
Whereas
yes,
in the case
Anita.
of digital, it's a little different. So
Absolutely.
I just wanted to clarify that one was mentioning about the 5 seconds and 3 seconds.
I got it. I got it. You are cleared. You are not guilty.
Yes.
But there are certain type of content I would definitely like to see on television. I was hearing the other day, in fact today morning, that 1.5 minute ki love story on radio. It comes. A girl and girl, they are in the office. They meet at the coffee counter. They say, hello, hi, kahan rehti ho, kya hai ye, aaj chhod dunga, and that love story is over. I don't subscribe to such love stories. I would rather see a good love story on television or a film.
With a lot of passion and emotion put in.
Yes, even at my age, I would still like to.
I agree with you. I'm also old age, Shashank.
I didn't say I am old.
I said old age. I didn't say I'm old. I said
I'm loving this panel discussion. This is the most exciting part of the discussion. So yeah, so Debarshi, you kind of, I think, just open a Pandora's box by saying what you did. Do you have any point of views to agree or disagree on that, or should we move forward with Chandan?
No, I see. I mean, I agree with both of them. When people come to social media, it is not about viewing a particular content. It's about relaxing. So when you're relaxing, you cannot have a very focused message. You have to be very short and quick, because people are just browsing. There's so much of information around, and it's there, as Priya correctly said, there is too much of noise, because today everybody poses to be an influencer these days. So it's more about how quick we are when it comes to digital, and when it comes to television, how targeted and a storytelling kind of a thing, we can be very much creative into that. So as both of them correctly said, a long format can work very well into television to create attraction and to get a very specific data and how the brand is working. We can go with the digital, so there we can actually have a very quick and very fast measurement of how our marketing campaign is working. And television can be used for creating awareness, spreading the message, how to make people love the brand. All those things can be done over the television.
Interesting. Just before we, sorry.
Azmat, Dave didn't clarify whether he would like to hear that 1.5 minute ki love story or love stories on television.
Yeah, this is a good question. I think this should be addressed, Dave. What is the kind of love story that you would prefer? 1.5 minute or 3 घंटा?
सर वैसे देखा जाए, आप मुझे पूछेंगे तो मुझे तो कुछ भी चल जाएगा. 1.5 मिनट, 1.5 घंटा, 1.5 दिन, 1.5 साल.
So flexible.
Interesting. No, but what you said about everybody's trying. Just before we move on to you, Chandan, just one quick thing. Like I had this existential question a couple of months back with myself. Wherein as a content marketer who's perpetually making promos and collaborating with influencers and building media reach, the works and everything, PM, performance marketing. I just realized that as a viewer, I have not really sampled any content in the last 2.5 years basis a promo. I'm on my Insta feed. I am seeing a friend whose judgment I trust put out a rave review for a show or share like a snapshot of the show. And in this supremely cluttered and busy environment, if I have 10 of my friends speaking about a show, that's the show that's on my to be watched list, and all the promos and all the hard work that I do as a marketer gets completely disregarded. So, this whole thing of social media, like while we might wish it away in terms of not everybody, but the fact remains that each one of us sitting right here out now, are influencers. Maybe what Anita says about a show that she liked, to her 10 friends, they would treat it as far more credible than say maybe what tons of advertising can do. And on that note, over to you, Chandan.
I completely agree with you, Azmat, on that particular point. And again, this is not new. Word of mouth has been there for many decades, centuries even. It's with some of our food and beverage brands. A group of mothers get together in a park and they can kill our brands in 2 minutes, or they can give some rave reviews of our brands in exactly the same 1 or 2 minutes. And people will trust them because they are like other people like them, and therefore, brands can move up, things can get chosen, things may also fall off the radar if the right kind of elements are not coming through. And it's just that these are getting manifested now in new and different ways, and digital is helping us to get that connection, to make it much faster, to make it more social, and so on and so forth. I think also, if you look at television, if you look at OTT specifically, a lot of OTT content is being consumed on the mobile phone, which means that today, people are willing to watch a web series on the mobile phone for a certain period of time. And there would be more fragmentation of audiences, the notion of, lean forward or lean back. And what is it that I want to kind of, engage with? If you're looking at your Facebook feed, you probably have just a few seconds to move up or down the feed and see what's going on. But if you want to sort of, watch a TED show, you want to watch a short movie, you want to watch a web series, and people follow those web series over not just one episode, but many episodes, you could still be using the same kind of same kind of device, but in a different mindset, in a different setting, and they could still consume it. So I think it will get more fragmented, and therefore this journey has to be assimilated much better. I think people who will win in this will be the ones who will be able to understand the journey, understand the medium much better, and get the numbers behind, and the audience and the reach and whatever their objective is behind, and put it all into a kind of a mix. I think we're still trying to develop the ecosystem to get there, because some areas, while digital is, has more numbers, not all the numbers are also perfect enough. And in a way, digital medium is going ahead of measurement in digital, and measurement in digital has to also catch up with digital, while that was the promise of digital.
Absolutely.
On the other side, television of course has its own kind of things. But I think television, to your former question, what will change in television, I think television will also start moving much and more into more engaging content. The very average kind of content which television had over some period, let us say, in some of the areas, will get replaced by more and more immersive and engaging content, what OTT has been able to bring. And if you look at some of the engagement from our millennial population, for example, has been astounding, and we will see more of that. I think the whole element around digital, around privacy and cookie less, and all those elements will also have a certain role to play, which we will all have to get to, and it's in the benefit of all of us.
Fantastic. Over to you, Samir.
I think one point which we've all missed is the fact that with the digital revolution and the acceptance and the growth of digital, it has very beautifully complemented the TV viewing. So I'll give you my example. One of the questions which was shared in the group was about the fact that digital brands are now banking on television as a medium to drive conversions. So for example, I think Shashank mentioned about the fact that, people choose to watch TV over digital, certain people.
Mm-hmm.
I think while people do prefer to do that, the attention is now divided between TV and a mobile phone. While people are watching TV, earlier people used to undividedly watch TV. Now they're also simultaneously fiddling with their phones. They're WhatsApping, they're checking social media, they're checking and responding to emails. And alongside, when you watch an ad which appeals to you enough, you also sometimes check out the brand online at the very same time. So if I layer my website traffic data along with the TV viewership and TV ad spot serving data, I realize that there are times when people are influenced enough with their communication on TV that within seconds and a minute or two, they respond to the communication by visiting your website or downloading your app online. And I think the sort of cross viewing and the dual screen phenomena is sort of also complementing TV very well. And in terms of influencers, we've had a very long debate and everyone has put forward a lot of points. I think one differentiation which we a lot of times for various categories fail to make is the influence that's derived by popularity and the influence that's derived by the subject matter expertise. And I think a lot of brands are banking on extremely popular influencers whose influence is derived out of popularity, while they may not have a very credible authority on the particular subject. I think for a lot of very technical categories, it is extremely technical and trust-based and complicated categories, for example, insurance and tech, etc. it is extremely important to not follow a very blanket influencer strategy, looking at only the reach of the influencer and the kind of cost that is being incurred to activate the influencer, but it should be very specifically targeted in a very precise manner to only choose the influencers that have an authority on the subject in which a category lies.
No, absolutely. I mean, that is a given. And I think what the point that you're making about the policy bazaar TG specifically, having a lesser immersive experience on television now, because it is kind of divided between the mobile screen and the television.
I think all viewers, so for example, I'll take my case. Whenever I'm watching TV, very rarely do I see myself giving undivided attention to, let's say, a T20 match that I'm watching for 3.5 hours. There are times when there are work emails and WhatsApps from friends or colleagues, or just social media fiddling that's happening simultaneously.
Right. So you're assuming your conviction is that TV will be less immersive going forward, and digital could be leveraged better with credible influence.
No, so what I meant is, while there is the attention division that's happening, that is not really destroying response. In fact, that's aiding immediate response. Otherwise, what the person would have done is that when they're in the market to buy that category, which could be a few days later, a few weeks later, etc., now they don't really have to wait for themselves to be in the market. They can immediately, even for window shopping, can just check out the brand immediately.
Right, absolutely. So the entire, this, it's lovely that this session ends in a manner that kind of just re-emphasizes, emphatically, establishes the point of television and digital, the dual strategy. The two are here, the two are here to stay and move hand in hand. And like, if anybody has any other, piece of wisdom nugget to share, please do. Otherwise, we can call it a wrap from my end on this. And thank you everyone so much for your time, patience, and for such an interesting and conversational panel. This was like really interesting. I especially love the love story piece.
Thank you, Azmat.
Thank you,
Priya. Thank you, Anita.
Thanks a lot,
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chandan.
everyone.
Thanks, Samir. Thanks.
Thank you guys. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.